Hey, what's up, everyone? It's me, your boy Brucev. So today we are going to be looking at the Shadowlands October developer update that they just released a few minutes ago. I really like what they've put out in this, and I really hope that you guys like it too. It's really good news to see how quickly they gave us this update, especially with the delay being announced 1 week ago. Everything that they have put in here is a step in the right direction, and I know that they're making the steps to make this the game that we want it to be and that we can enjoy playing. Alright, so the first thing that Blizz comes out with for this is they state that they're working towards making Shadowlands worth the wait. Great. We have an update on several changes and improvements can expect to see in the coming to beta in the next few weeks. Great. We want to test this as soon as possible. They started with the mall, saying the mall is intended to be desolate and a brutal domain of the jailer, and not a place any soul in Warcraft cosmos ever hopes to visit. That's true. There's really not much anything to there. It is pretty desolate. But this is, after all, a video game, and telling that story can't come at the expense of creating a fun environment for the adventurers. We've heard the feedback that this content is currently falling short of the mark, and we agree. Good. There's seriously nothing to do there. You go there, you get your souls every week for your covenant. You farm Stygia to work towards your sockets and your conduit upgrades, and you go to Torghast. That's really all that there is. And I'm happy they are working to increase the visual distinction and combat gameplay across a variety of different areas. Exploring, adding new localized events and world interactions. Great. Right now, it's like here's rare enemies you need to kill, or here's a death elemental that you can fight. That's pretty much it. You kill things, you look for certain things, and there's not much interacting with the mall. Players will venture into the mall weekly. Okay, we're still doing that. The Mysterious Broker offers a range of cosmetic convenience and power rewards in exchange for Stygia, so we're still farming that. And these goals need to be more immediately apparent early on. We'll share more info about specific updates when these changes are ready for beta testing and feedback. So it sounds like they're like trying to improve the quality of life that we're getting from this, and they don't want it to just be this weekly grind that you go in and you get out. They want it to be fun. They want you to want to go to the mall besides just going to Torghast. And I think that's the direction they need to go, because in Legion, when we had Suramar, there was a lot to do. Like, you had the quest line that you progressed from at the start of 7.0 and continued into 7.1 through the Nighthold raid. And that was great. You had the Withered Army training, you had world quests, the quest line and the storyline that went through there, and it was a lot of fun. It was visually appealing. The mall is really badass. It looks really cool, but if there's nothing to do there, there's no reason to see it. So the next thing Blizz wanted to talk about is conduits. They said they've received a lot of feedback about the conduit system. Very true. This is something I've been very vocally against. But many of you expressed concerns that the current system will unreasonably limit experimentation and multi-spec play early on in the expansion, while the existing weekly cooldown may provide sufficient flexibility once players have all 3 soul binds fully unlocked. And we agree that it is initially limiting too. I'm glad that they see that, and I'm glad that they recognize this. A single weekly reset also fails to draw any distinction between someone who only wants to adjust a single conduit and someone who wants to clear and rebuild their entire soul tree. Very true, because that's the big thing, right? Like, early on, you have to work through your weekly renown to unlock your soul binds and unlock parts of the tree to them. Like, you just don't get it like that. You have to unlock your conduits, you have to unlock the soul binds, unlock the tree, and you work through it as it goes on, and it's gonna feel really bad in the current implementation, because you could set everything up. Okay, I have raid, and I'm ready to go for raid, and you might not have your best conduit yet. Your best conduit might come from raid. You get that the first time you kill Sludge Fist or whatever his name is, and you can't even change it out until Tuesday. And it's like, man, I could really use this for that next DPS check, but I can't put it in. And that feels really bad. And for those of us who do, a variety of content as a variety of different specs, you can't change. It's not like I have my Prot Paladin set of conduits and my Holy Paladin set of conduits and my Ret Paladin conduits and my Soulbind changes per spec. No, it is like you set it and that is what you have for the week currently. So what they are doing to change that is in an upcoming build, we will be replacing the weekly cooldown on changing conduits with a more flexible system. While first unlocked, the Forge of Bonds will be charged up with 10 conduit energy, and placing a conduit into a socket will consume a single charge. Conduit energy recharges at the rate of 1 per day up to a cap of 10. Adding a new conduit to your collection immediately restores 1 conduit energy as well. So it's a little convoluted, right? So essentially you're getting 7 swaps per week plus a little carryover, it seems like, in whatever you get from unlocking a new conduit, right? So you start off with 10, you use it, and you build it back up 1 per day, or if you unlock a new conduit, you get an additional 1 if you want to socket it in right away, which is really good. That gets rid of the problem of getting your best conduit and having to wait until Tuesday to reset it again. And honestly, for someone like myself who does a lot of Mythic Plus and likes to raid, I raid early on in the week. I raid Wednesdays right now. And then I do most of my Mythic Plus on Thursday, Friday, and Monday. So it kind of stinks because right now it's like I set all of my stuff for raid, and then I use that 1 weekly swap to change into raid from Mythic Plus, and I can't go back and forth to do the content that I want to do until I have more Soulbind, so it makes it hard early on. And sometimes my best option for Soulbind is going to be the same for raid as it is in Mythic Plus, depending on the covenant that I'm in and the Soulbinds that we're getting. Our goal to change that is to ensure that, especially when players are acquiring new conduits and only have access to a small number of Soulbinds and conduit slots, all players feel free to try out new upgrades to adjust their Soulbinds to support multiple specializations or activities. So the hard thing here is if you only have 1 Soulbind, right? And let's say that Soulbind is good for all of your specs, and you want to tank some dungeons as Ret, you want to DPS some dungeons as Ret, you want to tank some as Prot. That's cool if you can swap, but it's possible that if you're carrying, you could need Pelagos for both Ret and Prot, and you have to use all of your charges to swap to Ret, build them back up to swap back to your other spec that you use for raid, or if you want to do a dungeon in a different spec. While it is an improvement over the current system, it still has its drawbacks, in my opinion. I think it is a step in the right direction, and it puts a cost on what you're doing, like they did with gold, that with the BFA reforging system with your Azurite armor. And I'm happy that it doesn't have a scaling cost, though. You do what you need to do. You swap out what you need to swap out. It's better than it was, and to be honest, I'm okay with it because it gets rid of the biggest issues of changing out upgrades when you get them. And so for the last thing that they mentioned in this developer update is that they are working on class and covenant balance. Tuning has been underway for over the past couple of weeks, but a bunch of work remains. Yeah, that is true. There is still a lot of covenant issues as far as balancing goes. It's not like they're within 1 to 5% of each other. There are still some covenant abilities that are doing 50% of a spec or class's damage, and that's wildly unbalanced. They said their initial tuning efforts have focused on covenant class abilities that were outliers on either end of the spectrum, including some substantial redesigns that were necessary. That's very true. I like some of the changes they've been making to Rogue, even though I don't play it, but things seem to be a little more balanced. Even though they don't necessarily feel good from what I've heard, at least you can pick what you want to pick rather than being forced into an option just because it does 50% more damage than every other option you have. They said in the coming weeks we will see continued iteration on these abilities, as well as the soul binds that complement them. Balance in this area means pursuing a mix of offsetting strengths and weaknesses rather than identical capabilities, and our goal in this process is that every class covenant combination should have something to commend it. I agree and disagree with this for different reasons. I get that they want to make everything be good at something but have its drawbacks. Like, you can be good at single target but not great in AoE. You can be great at AoE but not at single target. You can be a little bit better in PvP but you're not as good in PvE. And I understand that, like, every MMO is going to have that. I understand that they want you to have those meaningful choices that you choose the style of play that you enjoy the most. And for the most part, people are going to do that anyway. But at the same time, I'm still concerned that we're going to run into issues. And it's a community-driven issue, I agree. But I feel like this stance by Blizzard kind of just furthers the issue, where there's going to be a meta, and there's always going to be a meta. But when you see classes and specs do twice the amount of damage as another spec, if Windwalker is here at the bottom and Affliction Warlock is doing almost 4 times the amount of damage as it, you're not going to want to bring a Windwalker to your raid, especially when you have Mistweaver and Brewmaster that are viable. That are viable specs for their given roles and provide the same utility that the Windwalker does. So the Windwalkers kind of get shafted in that. And at that point, if Affliction Warlock's doing that much damage and they're still doing twice the amount of damage as the next best spec, well, then you're going to need, there's going to be more stacking of Affliction Warlocks to get more damage out. There's already a balance in Raid when it comes to ranged and melee DPS, just because of mechanics and how you can handle them. And especially Mythic Plus, right? Like, the Mythic Plus meta is a lot tighter than the Raid meta is. And a lot of people, tanks is not as bad, right? Tanks, you can still probably get invited to different groups as long as you have a good Raider IO score. But with healers and DPS, it's not really as big of a thing, right? I have plenty of friends who will play, Restoration Shaman, or they play Holy Priest, and they apply to groups and get denied. I have friends who play Fury Warrior. I have friends that play Feral Druid, Ret Paladin, and other classes that aren't your Beast Mastery Hunter or Fire Mage or Havoc Demon Hunter. And, it's hard to find groups, and the community will take group. I'm not saying that they're wrong for taking something that's more meta, because when you're putting your group together, you want it to be as easy as possible, right? You want to take, like, what's going to give you the best chance of succeeding, but at the same time, you need to, there is a current balance issue with Covenant and classes, and right now the way it is, it's just further exasperating the issues that we currently see. So anyone that has PTR, anyone that has beta, I highly encourage you to go in and continue to provide feedback. I know I will be, especially with tank balancing and the way they feel. We need the whole community to participate in this. I need to participate in this a little better myself. But everything that they're doing here is a really, really good step in the right direction, and I'm very glad that they are being open and honest with us of what they're looking at, what they're looking to fix going into Shadowlands, especially now that, the delay, as I said earlier, was mentioned a week ago. So I'm hopeful that Shadowlands is going to be a great expansion. If you like the comment, be sure to like and subscribe and drop some comments in the comment section below. And I hope everyone has a great week.